He changed the world, but no one remembers his name. Long before empires were born and cities rose from the dust, there lived a man who saw movement where others saw stillness. His name was Eru, a quiet potter from a forgotten valley where the rivers met. He spent his days shaping clay and stone, not for glory, but for survival. The others in his tribe called him slow, a dreamer, lost in thoughts that led nowhere. But Eru saw patterns no one else did. He watched the sun roll across the sky, the moon chase it in silence, the round marks left by his pots dragged through the dirt. The world, he thought, was never still. It was always turning, always moving. And one night, as rain whispered against his hut and firelight danced on the walls, he stared at a broken pot. Its curved rim caught the light and cast a perfect circle of shadow. In that simple shape, something awoke inside him. The thought that would divide time in two before the wheel, and after, he began to carve. A rough circle from stone, uneven, heavy, alive with possibility. It cracked. He tried again. And again. His hands bled, his tools broke, and the laughter of the tribe followed him wherever he went. Why, they asked, would a man try to make a stone chase its own tail? But Eru didn't hear their laughter anymore. He only heard the whisper of motion, the pulse of something waiting to be born. Days turned into weeks, and one morning he carried his latest creation to the riverbank. It was smooth, round, balanced. He placed it on a wooden rod carved from a fallen tree, and the world seemed to hold its breath. He pushed. And for the first time in the story of mankind, something rolled. The circle broke free from stillness. Eru stood there, breathless, watching it move. The sound of the stone rolling on earth echoed like thunder in his heart. For a moment, he forgot his hunger, his loneliness, his fear. The earth had moved because of him. He smiled half in awe, half in disbelief. He had given motion a shape. He had made the world move, but he did not know that what he had awakened would change humanity forever, and that his name would one day be lost to time. The first wheel turned, and the world changed. But the hands that gave it life would soon pay the price. At first, no one understood what Eru had done. The people of the valley gathered around his strange creation, watching the circle spin in the dirt. To them, it was unnatural, even dangerous. They had lived their lives by the will of the earth, and the earth did not move on command. They called it the eye of the earth, a sign of spirits awakened from sleep. Fear grew like fire among them. The elders whispered that Eru had broken a sacred law, that he had challenged the gods who kept the world still. Eru tried to explain. He spoke of motion, of freedom, of a world where men could carry more, go farther, live easier. But his words were drowned by superstition and fear. The people did not want freedom. They wanted safety, even if it meant chains. They seized his wheel and cast it into the fire. Eru stood and watched as it blackened, cracked, and turned to ash. Around him, the crowd cheered. The tribe believed they had defeated the curse of motion. But Eru knew better. The circle had already begun to turn, and no fire could unmake it. He spent the nights alone by the river, his heart heavy, his mind restless. The memory of that first roll haunted him. He could still feel the vibration of the stone moving beneath his hand, the sound of destiny breaking through the soil. He could not forget, so he began again. Not with stone this time, but with wood. He carved in silence, each stroke a prayer, each curve a promise. He built in secret, hidden from the eyes that feared him. When the sun rose one morning, he placed his new creation, a smooth wooden wheel, beneath a small cart made from branches. He pulled the cart, and it moved effortlessly, gliding over the earth like a spirit freed from its body. For the first time in months, he laughed, but the sound carried across the valley, and the elders heard it. They came at dusk, their faces carved with judgment. They saw the cart, the wheel, the proof of his defiance. That night, they took him away. No one spoke his name again. His hut was burned, his tools thrown into the river, his story buried under silence. But deep in the water, one wheel survived, caught between stones and mud. It waited as rivers rose and fell, as generations passed. The fire had not destroyed Arrow's gift, it had only hidden it. The curse of motion had already taken root, and the world would never be still again. Seasons passed. The valley moved on. The name Arrow faded like smoke after rain, and his people forgot the man who tried to move the world. The river swallowed the ashes of his work, but not the memory of what he had done. Because ideas, unlike men, do not die. They sleep. One morning, many years later, a child from the same tribe wandered along the riverbank. The water had receded after a long drought, revealing something strange half buried in the mud. It was smooth, round, and shaped by hands far older than his own. The boy touched it, brushing away the dirt, and the sunlight caught the curve of the wood. He pushed it gently. It rolled. He laughed, chasing it down the slope, the wheel spinning faster and faster until it splashed into the shallows below. The laughter drew the attention of the elders, who came to see what had amused him. They looked down at the strange wooden circle and frowned, not in fear, but in curiosity. The old stories about curses and spirits had grown faint with time. What once terrified them now seemed like mystery. The oldest among them lifted the wheel, feeling its balance, its lightness. It moves with the earth, he said quietly. Not against it. And so they began to copy it. The men carved circles from tree trunks, shaping them smoother with every attempt. They tied them to wooden sleds, then to carts. They carried water, food, stone, and timber with ease. The village changed. What once took days could now be done in hours. For the first time, the people could go farther than the horizon they were born under. They no longer called it cursed. They called it divine. They built shrines in its shape, prayed before its perfect circle, and thanked the gods for their generosity. They never knew it was not the gods who gave it to them. It was a man they had once cast out. By the time they named their new creation, the word Arrow had turned to myth. Some said he was a spirit of the river, others said he was never real at all. But the wheel turned still, carrying his dream through time, through hands, through generations. At dusk, when the sun melted into the horizon, the river would glow like fire. And beneath its surface, if one looked close enough, they could see the faint shimmer of something round still buried there, turning slowly with the current. The world had forgotten the man who built it. But the circle he created was still rolling, silent and eternal, waiting for the next chapter of its story to begin. Centuries passed, and the small valley that once feared motion became a crossroads of life. Carts rolled where feet once stumbled. Villages became towns, and towns became cities. The circle that Arrow shaped in silence now carried kings across kingdoms and dreams across deserts. From the first wooden carts came chariots that thundered into battle, wagons that crossed mountains, and ships whose wheels turned in water and wind. The world began to move faster, and the motion never stopped. Each new age found a way to make the wheel its own. Metal replaced wood. Axles grew stronger. Roads stretched like veins across the earth, carrying people, goods, and hope farther than Arrow could ever imagine. The idea he gave the world became its heartbeat. The wheel turned, and humanity followed. It became the base of every machine, the core of every journey, the shape that defined progress itself. Yet, no one remembered the man who had started it all. His name was lost, buried in time, washed away like dust in rain, but his spirit lived on in every rotation. Every carriage, every bicycle, every engine that hummed across the ground carried a piece of his dream. Even when the first engines roared and the first planes lifted into the air, their wheels touched the earth before rising. Every motion, every journey, began with the same gift, the circle that once rolled beside a river in silence. Today, we move faster than ever. Our world spins on wheels of steel, rubber, and fire. We cross oceans in hours, continents in days, planets in lifetimes. Yet, somewhere in the great noise of our age, there is still the echo of that first quiet roll. When one man looked at the earth and imagined it could move, Arrow never saw what the world became. He never knew that his forgotten idea would one day carry mankind to every corner of the earth and beyond it. But perhaps he didn't need to know. Because creation, real creation, isn't about being remembered. It's about leaving something that keeps the world in motion long after you're gone.